I would safely want to assume that that was the position of the president as well.
And I think that
exactly
that's incorporated.
Oh, it does.
In a statement announcing Martin Amidu's dismissal.
That
Dr.
acting attorney
Kumbo
general
as acting to pursue the case.
Boldly segregated from all cases prosecuted. The government is prosecuted.
Yeah, he says all cases.
Boldly segregated, very important.
Okay, so there's no cause for alarm relative to that matter at this stage. This is just a safe assumption I am making. The acting attorney general has also indicated that he will be meeting Martin for, handing over notes and understanding of the matter. It's also quite normal. It makes sense to me. And so, for me, we are all with eagle eyes, watching, monitoring. This amended statement is loaded, absolutely loaded. It is true that the processes to challenge or to reverse the terms of settlement
and to prove the loaded statement.
Yes, I'll prove it.
I'm saying that you're
prove
saying
it in court.
Beyond the loaded statement, to get a conviction, you have to have evidence to prove it in court.
Look, I'm not a lawyer. I'm a layman. In fact, I'm legally illiterate. I would be shocked if this statement, this amended statement, is unable to make the state clinch a victory in this case. I'll be shocked.
The statement alone, or in addition to
the advocacy on this statement. Those of us who have done some research into the matter, look, I was so excited when I read this portion, that is the particulars of fraud. It says that the defendant colluded with whatever to write to the plaintiff, misrepresenting and supporting the claims of the defendant, when both defendant and whatever knew that the defendant did not have any claims against the government. You remember there was a threat to sue us, including the host, the sitting host.
2 weeks ago.
2 weeks ago. We were talking of conspiracy between Waterville and Woyomi.
That's the claim of the Attorney General.
It is a vindication of what I had said here, based on the documentary evidence available.
That you have.
Okay. Listen, let's not joke with some of these things. This thing is straightforward.
You say you are legally illiterate.
Yes, but I've done enough research from a journalistic point of view. I can make an input.
Yes, go on.
And I made this statement.
So you're certain that this case will not fail, regardless of who
it cannot fail. It will not fail.
Or it might not fail. Which one is it?
It doesn't make sense. Look, Matilda, I think I have to be careful, maybe not to get myself into trouble. But you see, what did the Attorney General tell us? He says Woyomi never had any contract with government.
In the amended rate.
And Woyomi himself had said so. So he said, I'm not backing my case only on the Attorney General. Woyomi himself publicly had said so.
Okay.
I've heard the last 2 days some deputy ministers of states and government functionaries saying that Kufuor is afraid that if the MPP guys went to EOCO, they will realize that he breached the contract, advocated a procurement policy. All those guys don't know what they are talking about. And that is what is creating problems for this government. This matter would have been solved long ago. But for the fact that some members of government, and he mentioned the Deputy Attorney General. It's true. I wonder why the Deputy Attorney General is in office. The very moment this thing was filed by his boss, he ought to have been out of the place. And not just this. Before this, under Betty even, the processes had begun.
Yeah.
To institute a reversal. Before the Deputy Attorney General spoke to this station and claimed that government had a bad case, and that's why there was no defense. When Betty started that process of reversal, now amplified, coherently articulated in this, the Deputy Attorney General should have exited on his own.
Okay, we'd just like to announce for the benefit of our listeners and viewers that we've been joined by Sam George. He's a member of the NDC communications team replacing James Ejeni Boateng. We'll come to him in a minute.
Or
we could proceed.
The president, as we speak, should ask him to leave. Look, it means there's no coherence and cohesion in the Attorney General's office relative to this case, the pursuit of this case. Because whilst the substantive Attorney General has filed this, amplifying what had been filed earlier, this time more emphatic, because the other one, they were not even asking for the refund, which Egbert Fable educated me on, that there was no demand for the refund.
But it was to make a submission of no case.
No case and all that.
Obviously, if was well prosecuted.
Well, and the judge it was left to the judge's discretion.
Okay.
But this is more emphatic. I'm told sometimes it's good to be emphatic, specific, so that you leave the judge no room for discretion.
Sure.
Especially when you are so sure that a fatal injury had been caused to your case earlier by your own omission.
So can we guess the reason why at that time, by 18th of August, the Attorney General did not ask for a refund? It was because it was assumed at that time that the money has not been paid. How do you go and ask for a refund at the time that monies have not been paid? Only for the Auditor General to contradict it by the figures that we have.
Okay, we'll come to you and then you do your
right.
You do mathematics.
You could be right.
Because they didn't want to pay. And the judge ordered them that they should pay the first tranche of 17-point-something million Ghana cedi because it was almost due for payment at the time they were filing for the stay of execution.
Yes, but beyond that, I've seen other processes that went beyond September. So they could have brought in that element. Okay, they didn't bring it till this one.
That notwithstanding, we have this now. You think that this case cannot and should not fail?
This is a fantastic legal document.
Okay, I'd like you to quickly...
speaks the language that the good people of this country would want to hear. The patriots. That what had happened by omission or commission on the part of the Attorney General's office, Ministry of Finance, or whatever, the same state was seeking to cure the mischief through the appropriate fora.
So when does this and the ongoing case then leave, if you like, the EOCO investigations, which the NPP has refused to partake?
Well, fantastic question. And I have said I'm very cynical when it comes to EOCO's integrity. Not their constitutional mandate, but their practices. I've developed a certain cynicism, which I hope will not be permanent. But this document here, and if EOCO is so minded, the direction of their investigations ought to change. They ought to start focusing on Wyoming and what have you. I cannot believe it. That if they are minded...
Sorry, in focusing on Wyoming and Waterville, wouldn't they still require the input of the previous ministers who dealt with Wyoming and Waterville from the onset?
They would, in principle.
Okay.
But you see, the problem with the EOCO, the letter they sent to those ministers, talked of, suspected they were investigating serious offenses, including fraud in the award and execution of contracts. And this is based on petition that Achina Breto, who is the self-proclaimed spokesperson for Wyoming, had sent there. Incidentally, the one to Obiamwa, there's an additional element that now the judgment debt paid to Wyoming will also be investigated. So the one to Osofumafu, there is no hint of judgment debt being investigated. Okay. But the one to Obiamwa is there. I believe maybe they are revising their notes. But you see, the president directed them to do fact-finding.
Yeah.
Achina Breto had gone there with some perceived criminality perpetrated by previous administrators and members of the administration. And that's what they are investigating. As far as I'm concerned, yes. You see, but that's part of the problem the MPP guys were having. That in this court case, you know it's possible that they could be witnesses here.
Yeah, it's possible.
The state could call them to be witnesses in this civil case.
That they're happy to comply with.
I haven't asked any of them that question. I'm saying that it is so logical that they could be witnesses for the state in this case, in court. They could be witnesses in Parliament for the Audit Public Accounts Committee. And EOCO says it is conducting criminal investigations. Until this statement, As far as I knew, their focus was on those that the petition had alleged had perpetrated a crime. And yesterday I heard deputy ministers of state talking. Oh, the NPP President Kufuor and the rest breached a contract. That's a fallacy. So they are proceeding even on a false premise. And if you proceed on a false premise, you arrive at a wrong destination.
George is from the NDC communications team. He's just joined us. Because we've moved on, we can't give you the benefit of time to go back. But where we are now is looking at how the removal of Martin Amidu is likely to affect the amended rate he's filed in pursuing the case against the millions paid to Alfred Woyomi that he believes the state ought to be refunded for.
Well, very well. A very good morning to our viewers and our listeners. And I must state that I didn't get here late as due to my own making. I was called at very short notice.
Yes, you were replacing James Jenny Boateng, who was supposed to have been here from the onset.
Yeah, very well. I tuned in when I was driving down here, and I realized that the linkage there's been a very big effort to create a linkage between both. But I honestly believe that both issues are mutually exclusive. The sacking of Martin Amidu clearly was for misconduct or conduct unbecoming of a minister, and I think the letter adequately expressed that. The letter that conveyed his dismissal to him. Now, when you look at the substantive case, which is in court, I don't want us to limit it just to the amendment he has brought in, because it's a process. The whole legal thing is a process, and it started in 2010 under then Attorney General Betimoldi Drisu, and he has brought in currently the amendments he has. Now, when you look at the letter which His Excellency sent, it was clearly stated in that letter, and for very good reason, for avoidance of any shadow of doubt, that the acting Attorney General must continue with all cases the Attorney General's Department was prosecuting, and the President made a special mention of the Woyomi case. Now, people have asked, why would the President make a special mention of it? Actually, it's the trending topic in all political discussions right now. And so, obviously, the President also foresaw the political mischief which could have been created by saying that Martin Amidu was fired because we wanted to kill the Woyomi case. But he's clearly stated that he wants to get to the bottom of it. Now, another issue which is being a source of confusion, especially for the NPP, is the fact that they have tried to misconstrue the case in court and the investigation that the EOCO has been asked to do. The two different things. The case in court is a civil case. Okay. Now, what EOCO has been asked. Which
one? The one that the Attorney General is pursuing against Martin Amidu?
It's a civil case. It's not a criminal case.
Okay.
It's a civil case. Now, the EOCO has been asked to carry out investigations for possible criminal action if there's culpability found.
And this is based on whose orders? Because if I understand,
on the orders of
the President's thing, and his orders was more of the fact-finding.
No, you see, if you take the constitutional mandate of the EOCO, and that's being another source of confusion. People say they don't have the mandate to investigate the Attorney General. It's being a mantra for many NPP communicators.
I think that the issue has not been a lack of a mandate. It's been more of a subservient or an organization which reports to the Attorney General.
That's the mistake everybody seems to be making, and unfortunately you're making the same mistake. If you take the EOCO law, Act 804 of 2010, it is clear. EOCO has a threefold mandate. First is to monitor financial and economic crimes, yes. The second is to investigate economic and financial crimes. And then the third leg is what links them to the Attorney General's Department. And that is not peculiar to the EOCO.
Third leg?
The third leg is to prosecute through the Attorney General's Department. And the point I'm making is that is not peculiar to the EOCO. The police service does not go and prosecute on its own. It prosecutes through the Attorney General. The Attorney General, every investigative agency, BNI, they prosecute through the Attorney General's Department. And so that doesn't, except you want to say that the Ghana Police Service is also subservient to the Attorney General, then we can make that point. But if the EOCO has been asked to investigate, obviously His Excellency...
What exactly is the mandate of the EOCO? Because I think that's also been a source of confusion. Is it to do a fact-finding or to investigate a criminal or possible fraud and criminal case?
Well, I think it's an issue of semantics here. investigate fact-finding. You cannot carry out an investigation without fact-finding. They are both bound. It's a choice of English words, okay? Because if you are doing a